Hey everybody, Jason Shadrick here. We're at Premier Guitar headquarters in Iowa, and we're lucky enough to be visited today by all the way from Australia.
Yeah.
Via Chicago today.
Via Frankfurt, via a few places.
Adam Miller, great fingerstyle player. You've probably seen him in a bunch of our NAMM videos and stuff. So he's going to hang out here for the next little while and play some tunes and answer some questions.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions for him, drop them in the comments below, and we will read them out in between songs. So Adam,
cool.
Take it away. What song are you going to play first?
I'm going to play the first track from my last album, which is called The Full Pisani.
All right.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Sweet. Thank you. The crowd in the room. I'll punch out another song quickly. This is a brand new song of mine that I've just started playing in the last year. It's called Love. Yes. Thank you, Facebook Land.
Yeah. So, Adam, a couple people have been chiming in, asking
Yeah.
questions. They say it sounds great. But one of the guys brought up a question about an influence, brought up Charlie Hunter's name.
Yeah,
Especially
totally.
on that first song. Can you tell us a little bit about how maybe his music has influenced you?
Totally, actually. So very early on, from a super young age, I was a huge Tommy Emmanuel fan and got into the whole boom chick fingerstyle sort of thing. But then at the same time, I was playing in rock bands and playing jazz and blues and fusion and that sort of thing. And actually, I was watching a John Mayer live DVD concert, and he was playing his song Neon on a fan fret guitar like the one Charlie plays. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, looks like Charlie Hunter." I'd never heard of him. Got a CD, and then within a week, I'd bought a old Strat copy at a pawn shop, ripped out the pole pieces, and put on bass strings, and started doing gigs on it straight away. I just didn't think it was humanly possible to improvise and play bass lines at the same time, and it sort of really opened my world to it. And so, Charlie's a huge influence on me and a really good friend. I actually own one of his old guitars, so he's 7-string, and I play it quite a bit back in Australia, but predominantly with singer-songwriters. And so I become their backing band, and they save money, I guess, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Another question that was brought up was about, I think it was on the second tune, about Bill Frisell.
Yeah.
Has his music?
Well,
all?
definitely. I would say Bill is my favorite guitar player of all time. So they've basically nailed those two on the head, which is sort of nice, I guess, if people can pick that out. That's pretty amazing.
Are there specific things from Bill's music that you've tried
There's
to?
not in. I guess the thing I really found amazing about Bill's music was his ability to not overplay. And especially, I went for years just trying to play faster and more complex as I could, especially when I'm not playing fingerstyle and solo. And I just wasn't very good at it, honestly. I'm just not very good at playing super fast. So especially when I came across Bill's music, it was just the unbelievable beauty and clarity within melody that he was achieving. The first thing I actually ever heard was his arrangement of Somewhere Over the Rainbow while I was watching a movie. It was in a movie soundtrack, and it just absolutely blew me away. So, I think of I think over half of the music on my iPhone is Bill Frisell. I listened to Bill driving here today, actually, to his new album.
Are there certain albums you could point people to who maybe aren't familiar
with Bill
that you think would be a good starting
Good
point?
Dog Happy Man is the album that is one of the greatest albums of all time. I would say, full stop. And a lot of musicians and people in the guitar world sort of agree with that. We all kind of go crazy. It's like, what's your favorite? And everyone ends up saying the same thing. There was a certain period of that sort of thing, but all of his live stuff is pretty amazing. His East West and Further East West albums, just because you can sort of hear how much he does in a live situation, just with especially like his Line 6 DL4 and the looping, and just how that all integrates into the sound, just to create really cool music, not necessarily sort of crazy stuff all the time. It just makes amazing melodic music. So,
and could you offer a recommendation for Charlie's albums, or Charlie Hunter's albums?
Charlie's albums for sure. Charlie has sort of gone through so many stages as a musician and a person, and I guess sort of that we've known each other for the past sort of 10 years has sort of been interesting as well, because we talk about those changes. But his early stuff is incredible. The album Ready, Set, Shango is just like sort of the possibility of what you can do with 2 hands and an 8-string guitar. So for those that don't know what Charlie plays, it's essentially has 3 bass strings, and his current instrument has 4 guitar strings, but his previous instrument had 5 guitar strings. And so he plays both. The bass strings go to a bass amp, the guitar strings go to a guitar amp. When you listen to an album, you wouldn't realize that it's not two people doing the one person's job. So yeah, like Ready Set Shango, that album, I think it's called Return of the Candyman, which is with a Vibes player. I really love that album. And then getting into his most recent stuff that's come out now, which is really more old blues influence, and it's quite aggressive. It's amazing to check out. So I'm trying to remember the name of his last album, and I can't. I know it's on Ground Up Music. I can't
people
remember.
can look it up.
Yeah,
Type
yeah,
in their
yeah.
Google machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And find it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Tommy Emmanuel's influence growing up.
Totally.
Now, a lot of people from the States, when they think Australian guitar players,
Exactly.
that's the name that just pops to the top of the list. But what was like the guitar scene like when you were growing up in Australia outside of Tommy's influence?
I'm going to be honest, like there was no other influence for me. So I guess the thing that people don't understand, in Australia, Tommy was essentially a pop star. So like I first got a Tommy Emmanuel cassette, I think in 1989, but it's predominantly electric guitar. He was the Tommy Emmanuel I sort of still love is a Telecaster player. And, you know, like through listening to his music, especially that young, so like I was 9 years old, 10 years old, is that he would just cover every style of music and every great guitar player. You know, like I learned to play Stevie Ray Vaughan style stuff through him and funk music through learning his songs at the time. So, yeah, like his albums would go to top 5 in the pop charts. He'd be on the... like the Tonight Show equivalents in Australia, either as himself or he'd be like the guest player in the band that night for a certain artist. So his impact on guitar in Australia is almost unbelievable to comprehend, actually. It's sort of crazy. So there are definitely... and, you know, that's all pre-internet as well, when you had to know someone to give you a cassette or give you an album. So... you know, aside from that, Australian guitar players, there were a couple of other guys like Bruce Matisky and Michael Fix, who I believe were both very early students of Tommy Emmanuel as well, that were doing a similar thing and really well. And they've both gone off in their sort of slightly separate directions now, which is really cool. So he just set the bar super high, Tommy, like, and just sort of made you think that it was possible to play instrumental music, which is... the thing that I really got out of it from that age. I think I was listening to like Billy Joel and Clapton and things like that, and I'd try to sing it, but at 10 you just can't sing, especially like Clapton or Billy Joel. So when I heard Tommy Emmanuel, I was like, oh, he plays guitar, I sound exactly the same. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah.
Well, before we play another song, why don't you tell us a little bit about the instrument you have there?
Yeah, so this one is a Nick Huber guitar. This was made in Germany. Nick runs a very small company, about 10 staff, and just builds the most superb electric guitars available. I pretty much think they're... every guitar I've ever played of his is perfection. And I had this one made for me last year, and it's what's called... the model is called a Rietbergen. And it's essentially just his standard body shape enlarged to a 335 size. So what's sort of cool about it is it's so it's a redwood top, like solid, not plywood, I guess, like a 335. The back is one-piece mahogany, the neck is mahogany, and rosewood fretboard. It's unlike a 335, it's 25.5-inch scale, so it's more like a Telecaster. And the pickups in this are Lola Gold foils, which are single coils as well. So essentially this is like, you know, a giant sort of jazz guitar-y looking Telecaster, which is going back to, you know, Tommy Emmanuel being the Telecaster player. I think it's stuck with me all that time that I just like tellies. So it's, you know, sort of got that sound where you've got the neck pickup, the middle position. Then your bridge. So this is a really cool guitar for me, especially traveling, because it can sort of do any gig. It's got a very acoustic sort of sounding top end when I play it, and it's with fingers, but if I start playing with a pick and overdrive, it can really get to some sort of classic blues sounds and other sort of funky rock sounds or whatever I sort of need. If I rock up to a jam session or to hang out with other players, which often happens when I'm away. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, can we hear another song?
Yeah, we can definitely hear another song. So I might play something, a little bridge picky with a little bit of a... No, actually, I'm going to do something different. This is just a little blues on this. I wrote this song for my grandfather. In Australia. He's 94 years old. And this is called Blues for Birds. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So one guy chimed in here and asked a question about what were some things you did early on to get kind of the interdependence with your right hand. Are there things specifically that you practice to get that going?
Yeah, there's well, basically, especially with the boom chick stuff, there's a whole heap of exercises you can sort of do to start, and just to kind of just start to get your thumb to do something different to your fingers, and it's basically just starting to do different rhythms with your fingers underneath. That's not a very good one, but it's like playing on the one. And then playing on the 1 and 2.5, or no, 3.5, sorry. Yeah. and then slowly working your way up to more advanced sort of finger patterns, something like. Then you can, I guess then, for example, with the last song, it was a lot of it was straight eighths in the bass. So I do a similar thing, working myself up with that. So like on the 1, and then on the 1 and 3.5. The other thing you can do with that, and to sort of get the soloing chops up, is even just run up and down like a pentatonic scale at the same time. Like, so I'm playing all the bass with my thumb and the lead part with my index and middle finger, and they just walk up like this, like. So that's at quaver rhythms, and then you can subdivide that and go. And then play triplets over it and just keep until you get it sort of clean under your fingers in 20 years' time or something. It's one of those things where it just takes, you know, I think it's really good to learn it with a song as well. So you've got, you know, sort of a goal of a particular piece you're trying to achieve to motivate you to get there, instead of just sort of random. And then with each new piece comes some weird new little rhythm that you've got to get under your fingers. And then by the time you've spent a week on that, the next time you have to play it or learn something like it again, it's just in muscle memory. So, yeah.
And then when you move to single note lines, how are you kind of alternate picking, so to speak, between your fingers on your right hand? Are you
with a song like, it will depend on the bass line of the song for me, of how that works. So with something with a constant bass like that, it's generally index, middle finger, and then some ring finger as well. If the song requires something more where the bass line is a little bit more free and sparse, then I'll actually use my thumb interspersed in between it, playing bass lines as well, which is something I stole from Charlie Hunter, actually. A little technique where just actually realizing that you don't have to play everything all the time. You can actually the result of this sort of sound sometimes happens because you're playing things in between each other rather than two parts at a time. So the whole, what's that term? The whole is more than the sum of the parts, something like that. Anyway, which it definitely is. So if you're sort of doing something like you know, like a bass line like this, so that's a little bit sparse, then you've got you can actually have time to get your thumb, because that's sort of, I guess, the quickest. Thumb, index, middle is sort of the easiest way to sort of play lines fast, I think, with your fingers, rather than just straight sort of classical or bass technique. And, you know, especially thumb, index, middle, I developed a lot from just playing guitar at home and being lazy and not finding a pick. So I'd just sit there and like play solos, and to the point I realized that I was only really grabbing a guitar pick when I was at a gig, and then not playing very well, and then realized, oh, it's because I spend all my time just playing at home like this. So, yeah, it just sort of happens that way. Yeah.
All right, so we switched guitars here.
Yeah.
So this is Jeff Traugott.
This is a Jeff Traugott acoustic, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about how you kind of came to know his work. And
well, first and foremost, just because Charlie Hunter was playing one. Basically, the first Traugott I ever played was Charlie's, one of Charlie's 7 strings, which is actually the guitar I now own at home, which is sort of funny. It's pretty cool to own one of your idol's guitars. And I met Jeff at one of the luthier shows in the Montreal Jazz Festival. It was the Montreal Guitar Show about 7 years ago. And we just got along really well and talked about making a guitar. And he had 3 acoustic guitars there, and one was a fan fret instrument like this. And I thought it was glorious and really liked the idea of a fan fret 6-string guitar. And so commissioned it, and then got it a little while after, and this has been my main touring acoustic guitar for the ever since then, actually. So obviously the fan fret thing is an idea that a lot of people have confusion of why, and I guess different guitar players have different reasons for it. In the case of Charlie Hunter's instrument, that guitar would not work without fan frets because it's tuned so low to, well, his guitar's tuned to a low G of the bass, so 3rd fret of the bass. I actually tuned mine still to E of a bass, so it's a bit deeper, but the strings are floppier. On this guitar, my idea was that, and I basically only play in standard tuning or drop D. I don't really go any adventurous than that. Was that there was the bass notes sounded deeper to me. So the bass on this is out to 27 inches. So that's 1.5 inches longer than your standard Martin acoustic. The high E is 25 inches, which is the PRS scale length. And so that means the G string is roughly 25.5, which is the standard Martin sort of Fender scale length. And it just meant that, like, when I played this note, or even when it's an E again, it just sounds sort of like it's deeper than it is. It just has this resonance of that. Then the reason why you wouldn't then make the whole guitar longer is because your high strings start to sound a little bit banjo-y and too tight. So by having them shorter and sweeter, they really just have this sweetness to them, even rather than being out at 25.5 inch. And then the added bonus is that because each string is on its own scale length, there's a certain clarity to the guitar. And when you're playing sort of complex chords, they ring a little bit clearer than on a straight fret instrument. So it's a little bit harder to play in some circumstances, and some things are actually a little bit easier because you have more space. So, the thing I kind of tell everyone when they try it is just don't look down and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Did you ever go through a phase where you experimented with a thumb pick or finger picks?
Definitely the thumb pick, especially early in my career when I was like touring with Tommy Emmanuel when I was younger and opening his shows. I'd play pretty much exclusively with a thumb pick. But then especially when I got into Charlie Hunter, I realized that the bass sound I wanted was like a P bass with the tone rolled off and 30-year-old strings. And the thumb pick was delivering that too tightly. I wanted it to be dull and thuddy, so it just definitely ended up that the thumb was the way to go. I still use a pick quite a bit, actually, and occasionally in a solo performance I'll still pull it out. I think the last show I did in Germany, I used a pick on 2 songs of, the 2-hour show, but and when I play with an ensemble, I'm usually playing with a pick half the time. But yeah, there's something nice about just touching the strings with your fingers. It's cool. Yeah.
Well, you want to play a song for us, Adam?
Yeah, I definitely will. So I will use the alternate tuning for this. That's it. I'm going to play the song Parker for you now. I wrote this many years ago as a love song for a guitar that I couldn't afford, which was built by Mr. Ken Parker, one of his archtop guitars, which I just saw on the internet and fell in love with. So, and he has a lot of like sound samples and recordings on his website as well. Even Charlie Hunter has one of these things where he's playing a standard 6-string archtop, which is sort of cool to listen to. And after listening to a few of them, I just sort of wrote this song thinking it would sound really good on the guitar.
Have you been able to try it out on one yet?
Definitely, yeah. So actually, after this, I head to the home where Ken Parker lives this weekend. So I'll probably steal one for some of my concert there. So it's it's been pretty fun. But this was long before I had met Ken or even got to see one in person that I wrote this. So this is called Parker. Yeah.
Cool. So Adam, where can so what do you got going on now? I know you came out with a double record. That was your last release. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm actually just in the middle of finalizing off. It's actually his 2 new albums again. So it's really hard for me the way I compose. Sometimes it is on solo guitar, and sometimes it is with a band. So I end up, I just can't decide which way to actually record them. And I definitely have markets and people that want to hear me play just solo guitar, and then people that just want to hear me play with the band. So it's probably a little bit lazy production-wise to not make decisions, but I've just decided to record the album twice again. So hopefully they're going to be released staggered this time though. So I'm going to release the solo guitar album. It's called The Defining of Success. In hopefully August it will start to make its way out through the digital and physical world. And then the sort of band arrangement of the same album a couple of months later. So, yeah.
So where can people go online to find out information about tour dates,
Yeah,
albums,
definitely
everything else?
adammiller.com.au, which is a little Australian attachment. Can't get adammiller.com. It redirects to the whitehouse.gov for some reason, so haven't looked into that, but for whatever reason. And then Instagram, which is Adam Miller Guitar, and Facebook, which is Adam Miller Music. And yeah, you can sort of find out everything from there and keep it all pretty well up to date. So yeah.
Excellent. So you want to close out with the last song?
Yeah, definitely. So I might close out with something that will also be on the new record. It's been a bit of a mission to work out how to play, and also yeah, it's a fun one. So it's sort of about basically booking gigs and concert tours and that sort of thing, because I still do a lot of that myself, and it's just called Fight. So yeah, thanks for listening out there. Please feel free to shoot me more random questions, either guitar related or like kangaroo related. I don't care. Yeah, so this is called Fight. Yeah, thank you.